I can't wait to start talking about making our own pizza. Let's get started. Grabbing a white sheet of paper, try to make the biggest circle that you can. Don't worry about making it perfect, just get on the largest circle that you can. Once you got a circle placed onto your paper, grab some yellow paint and start painting your circle in yellow. This is going to give us a base coat for our cheese on the pizza. So I'm going to go ahead and again begin with my base coat of yellow. While this paint is still wet, I'm going to add in a little bit of brown and a little bit of orange to make it look like cheese is on this yellow bottom. This might add a little bit of a crust, just a little bit of paint onto the sides, and adding some orange. I want to make it look like the cheese is starting to melt. You know when you put a pizza into the oven and it's starting to darken or brown up just a little bit because the oven is getting it nice and warm? It gives us a nice implied texture. And so I'm going to grab my brush and just start making that implied texture. Now, using some red paint, I want to make a few splotches with my brush. So this is a controlled motion. I wanted to slow it down a little bit and show you again. My finger is held out with my brush so that I am controlling where the splatter goes onto my pizza. As I put my finger across, my watered down red can start splattering on top. You do not need a lot. I slowed it down just to show you it again. Just a small dabs of that splatter onto that pizza. Now, let's go ahead, set that aside to dry, and while it's drying, let's start thinking about what kinds of toppings we would like to have on our pizza. So getting out your planning guide, make sure to take a moment and put your name and class code at the top. My pizza will have how many slices? You decide. I put down 5 slices, and then I'm labeling the toppings that I want to have on my pizza. The idea sheet will help you as you figure out what kinds of toppings you would like to have for your pizza. I'm having bacon, onions, jalapenos, mushrooms, black olives, and then I'm thinking about, since my pizza is going to have 5 slices, 5 goes on the bottom of each of my fractions. I'm deciding how many pieces of pizza will have each of those toppings. 3 pieces will have bacon, 4 pieces with onions, and so on and so forth. Now, once you've finished deciding what you wanted to have on your pizza, let's go ahead and cut the pizza out and grab a large sheet of brown construction paper. We're going to give it a visual texture as well as an actual texture that we can actually feel. So go ahead and glue that pizza down onto your brown construction paper. Again, just like you made your nice big circle for your pizza, let's make another circle that's even larger for the crust. Now, I'm going to cut that out, and again, don't worry about making it perfect. This is just going to give us some texture to make our crust, a 3-dimensional type of crust for our pizza. So, here we go. Now that I've got my pizza, I'm going to start thinking about, I said I was going to have 5 pieces on, remember? So as I have my 5 pieces, I'm going to start dividing it up into a fraction so that I can start using those pieces to divide up my crust for my project. So let's go ahead and take my scissors and cut towards those pieces of pizza that I've designated as spots for my pizza. I'm going to now take the edges of my paper and start texturing it. I want to wrinkle it up. I want to roll it up. I want to crinkle it up. I want to make it so that those brown pieces of construction paper start to look like the pizza crust. I'm going to add a little bit of glue and squeeze that together to make it, giving it a texture that'll give me my pizza crust. Oh, I love the way this looks already. Oh my gosh, I just love the way this is actually looking like a real pizza. Let's go ahead and start working on the favorite part of the project, the toppings. Go ahead and get your piece of paper that tells you what toppings you're going to have, what colored piece of construction paper would go well for that topping, and the fraction, or the pieces that will have that topping placed on it. So, your idea sheet will really help you as you start drawing out some of your toppings once again. I'm going to take my paper and fold it into sections like so. I folded it into sections so that instead of just having one piece of bacon, by folding it, I'll actually have 4 pieces of bacon. Here, let me outline that in black so you can see it better. So my bacon piece looks a little bit something like this. Now that I've got my bacon so that you can see it a little bit better, I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to carefully and slowly cut out that piece of bacon. By having it folded this way, I can now not just have 1 piece of bacon, but 4 pieces of bacon. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this happens. I'm going to go ahead and continue cutting out that piece slowly and carefully and throw away my scraps. And by folding my piece of paper together, now I have 4 pieces of bacon. I'm going to outline it with Sharpie to make it look like the other pieces of bacon, that they all belong, so that it's not just a solid red piece of construction paper, but instead, I want to make it look like bacon. Okay, now that you've seen me do a couple pieces of bacon, I'm going to do the same thing on the other pieces of bacon as well. Now, I wanted my piece of bacon not just to have red construction paper, but I also thought 4 is probably not going to be enough. So I'm going to take another piece of paper by folding it in half, not just 1 piece of bacon, but actually now I'll have 2 more pieces of bacon that I can apply to my pizza. Again, using my black Sharpie, I'm going to make it look like bacon by adding some visual texture to my project. I might even use a little bit of white and red oil pastel so that it's not just a solid red colored piece of paper, but instead it's got some more interesting color choices into the bacon. Again, I want to make this just look as realistic as possible. This is really a lot of fun for me. Now that I've got my baking set aside, I'm going to do the same thing with a white piece of paper to make it look like onion pieces. So, just like you saw in the bacon, fold it, draw it, cut it so that you have multiple pieces all at once, rather than cutting out individual pieces. Again, kind of like that fraction idea. By folding it in half, you won't just have 1, you'll have multiples. Now, using those pieces of bacon, go back to your fraction, and when you start gluing it onto your pizza, make sure you're putting it on the right pieces of toppings that you said. So I look at my jalapenos. When I drew my jalapenos, the piece of paper I wrote down says 5 pieces of pizza are going to have jalapenos on it. So that tells me that my whole pizza is going to have jalapenos. Where the bacon, only 3 pieces had bacon on it. The onions had 4 pieces of of onions on it. Jalapenos go on all 5 pieces. Mushrooms. Now, doing the same thing every time, I fold my paper so that as I cut it, I will have multiples. I'm going to draw out the mushroom pieces, cut them out so that instead of just having 1, here's 4. Using my Sharpie, I want to make it look like mushrooms. My mushrooms say that I'm going to be putting them on only 1 piece of pizza. Now, lastly, I wanted to slow it down just a little bit. When I did my black olives, I made a mistake, and I thought I wanted to show this to you because, that's the great thing about art is you might make some mistakes, and then you have to start thinking about how can I make this work for me. I was looking for a hole puncher at my house, and this tool seemed to work out pretty well. And so my circles were not allowing me to make another circle inside of it. So I thought I would take another approach by cutting out or punching out some small circles and taking these small circles, stacking them together, and cutting a circle around it would be a great choice to make them look like black olives. So whatever way works best for you, it doesn't have to be just like Mrs. Foxen. I wanted to show you that I make mistakes and you just got to learn from them and figure out what way works best for you. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down some of these black olives onto 3 of my pizza slices. Wow, this pizza already looks amazing. I can't wait to get started on the last part, my placemat. So as you get started on your placemat, grabbing a sheet of paper, draw a horizontal line at the top. Using that piece of paper, go ahead and make some vertical lines as well. Now using your scissors, cut all the way up to the top line. This will create your warp lines for weaving. When you open it up, take your white strips of paper and begin your over-under pattern. So it'll look something like this. If the first one began under, the second one begins over. Over, under, over, under, over, under. As you continue your weaving, always check back. Wherever I started in the first column, do the opposite for your second column. You want to make it look like a checkerboard pattern. Over and under, over and under. All right. Now, once you've woven your paper strips through your weaving, let's go ahead and take our glue bottle and glue down some of those tabs so they don't come out. When you lift your flap, put a dot of glue underneath each of those tabs that are hanging off the edge. Once you've glued them down to the front side, do the same thing to the back side as well. There, this will give you your placemat. Now, taking some glue, put some glue on the back of your pizza and attach them all together. Wow, this really turned out great. I hope you had as much fun as I did making my project. Thanks for watching, everyone.